Madison, welcome to Gruen. We begin this week with Bunnings hitting a snag.
But for the first time in 15 years, a price rise from $2.50 up by $1.
OMG, it's not easy under Albanese. But at Bunnings, a shocking sausage surcharge is just the beginning.
While you're scanning the shelves for a bargain, you might not realise your face is being scanned too. Cameras allowing retailers to build databases of faces, tracking customer movements.
A face database. What a disgrace. This scandal has been right in front of our scanned faces all along.
Adjust the camera to your preferred location. How easy was that?
It was shockingly easy. Bunnings even employs this master of surveillance.
You can put a lot more under the tree with our prices.
So that's where he works the rest of the year. More like Father Snitchmas. And it's not just your face that Bunnings are worried about.
Really important to look after your deck. You put sunscreen on your face so you don't burn, so you're pretty much putting sunscreen on your deck. When you're oiling it, definitely.
Now I'm really glad I covered my oily deck. OK, Bunnings, I have some questions. Did you really think you'd get away with this?
You'll be amazed at what you can do with lowest prices.
I am amazed. And how does it work?
You're walking down the aisle and you're like, oh, what's that?
It's my oily deck. Don't film it. What do people say when they say your databases of faces?
Everyone's like, wow, where did you get that from? And you've picked it up from Bunnings.
Well, I'm not going to stand for it. I'm telling everyone.
Make sure you keep your family safe.
Hang on, are you threatening me? What are you going to do?
You've got friends over, you've got music playing, you've got some drinks flowing, and you're about to fire up the barbecue when bam.
Bam? What do you mean, bam? Bunnings, I'll do what you say. Just give my family a break.
If anyone deserves a break, it's your mum.
Leave my mum out of this. Read my face. Take your cameras and shove it.
Oh, OK. Where are we going to fit it?
I've got an idea, and if you can find a lower spot, I'll beat it by 10%. Time to welcome our panel. Todd Sampson, Lauren Zonfrillo, a new Gruen face, Liana Rossi, and Russell Howcroft. Selling the Australian dream used to look like this.
Thank you, Mr. Hooker. LJ Hooker, you're the best.
Back when even a small child could buy a home. Now the biggest player in property is a website, realestate.com.au, which claims to clock 100 million views a year and sells itself like this.
We spend our lives surrounded by houses, from your first cubby house to renting a terrace house, dreaming of a beach house, penthouse, or tree house. From the how much is this to the let's bid for that. In the end, there's one house for you, and that's home. We make it easier. realestate.com.au.
Shame the market is shit house. Maybe this is a better soundtrack. Banger. The realestate.com.au ad features buyers, renters and renovators. Liana, can you sell everyone the same dream?
I don't think you can. I think the spot is dancing around the fact that there are many different dreams now. I think conflating those audiences and having them in that end line, more buyers and more properties, isn't exactly what I want if I'm either of those people. If I'm a buyer, I don't want more buyers. If I'm selling a property, I don't want more properties to be sold.
I really like how this ad heavily targets women but doesn't ostracise men, which is really quite hard to do. And maybe I looked at this ad as a woman, but I saw it through the eyes of a woman. And I saw the woman doing all the decision-making. So the woman was deciding the value of the house. She was the one at the auction bidding. She was the one who'd had some renovation plans done and was explaining it to her partner. So it's a really empowering way to put women into the real estate advertising game, which isn't traditionally done.
The other property website, Domain, whose domain is domain.com.au, once tried to make themselves at home on TV.
It's your ultimate guide to property with Shelley and Chris.
The latest in your neighbourhood.
And right across Australia.
Your Domain starts Saturday, live at 10 a.m. on 9.
Oh, so a bunch of other people buying houses you can't afford. I'd call that show Rage. Now, domain.com.au ads don't sell the dream, they sell the depressing reality.
If you want to see properties early, you can get off-market alerts on the Domain app.
Alerts? That's far more convenient.
Domain, the only app you need to win Saturday.
Careful, she marks her territory by pissing on things. Lauren, is gamifying Saturday a winning bid?
When there's two dominant players in a category and they're pretty much the same, their advertising doesn't have to be that special or memorable. The role of their ads is just to get you to do something immediately. So they want you to get onto the app or the website, and they're not asking you to do too much because you don't have to go to a store, you don't have to spend money, you literally have to look down. But they're also giving you this future view. So that means that if you're a customer now or you're going to be one in the future, it's still okay. Just have a little mooch around online and sort of get to know the market so you know where to play. But where that leaves you is this appreciative inquiry where your mind takes you into the future and you picture yourself there. And then if you can't afford that, you actually feel like something's been taken away from you or you've lost something. So using aspiration is really compelling when it comes to making big life decisions like buying a house.
I get that. I went into the future and I imagined myself there and I was dead and I was relieved. Don't have to pay off that mortgage!
I mean, it's a very simple product demonstration ad. It's a duopoly, quite parody. So this is an innovation, which is get alerts, and they're trying to bring it to life visually using, you know, a kind of funny scene or scenario. What I thought was interesting, though, it is targeted at savvy buyers using a stupid one. It's kind of an interesting way of executing that. It's just showing someone who looks silly, and yet they're marketing to the most savvy buyers.
I just don't think they're romancing the tech. You know, they've actually created something which people are going to enjoy. So the notion of gamifying it, they're going to enjoy the fact that they get special alerts. And you know, there's a very simple thing in advertising. You have a proposition, and then the support to the Domain proposition is the fact that you can now get these alerts. There's all this sort of other, I don't know, there's other stuff going on, which I find completely unnecessary. If you've got the technology, sell the technology.
I think maybe coming at it from a bit of a different point of view, I don't like the idea of winning Saturday because it infers losing Saturday. So if you're not the winner, you are the loser. It reminds me of the lotto. And again, not winning, not making the millions, and then bringing you back to what is a pretty depressing housing market. So I think I don't need to be reminded that I'm a loser at every point.
Well, then you should stop watching advertising. Real estate agent is one of the least trusted professions in the country, ranking just ahead of advertisers. But thanks to real estate reality shows like Lux Listings Sydney, which I'll check out after I've binge-watched all of Your Domain, agents are selling themselves.
Bond's new total package undies have a total support pouch. Here's property advisor Gavin Rubenstein to explain.
It doesn't matter whether you've got a big listing or a small one, you've got to protect your assets. Those are interesting.
Oh! An undies ad with an actual dick. While local agents also put in a superhuman effort creating hype videos for individual houses.
Help, help, help! Can anyone save us? We need a large family home with a studio. Can anyone help?
Geez, this sounds a job for Superman, the super salesman.
Seems like less of a Clark and more of a Kent. Todd, does selling the agent sell the house?
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, they've become Real estate agents have now become the new chefs. But yeah, so the reason they plaster their faces on all of the posters that you see, it does help in the sell process. So on the one hand, when you see a lot of their faces up, you assume from the bandwagon effect that everybody is on board because they're selling lots of houses, therefore they must be successful. But the real reason they show so many faces is historically, real estate has had such a bad reputation with a lot of scam artists, and people were not willing to show their faces. So as a sign of trust and forward, they put their faces on everything. But I always felt a little uncomfortable that as a seller, you're paying them to advertise themselves. I always felt that was not quite right.
It's almost political advertising as well. You know, it's the leaflet drop. It's making sure that there's the name recognition. It's making sure that you're known as a local identity. It's putting the billboard at the local footy ground. It's very, very, very much, you know, local community-based, hand-to-hand. And then you can have lots of fun and get yourself dressed up in a Superman outfit. I don't know whether that sells the house. I mean, I can't see how that can possibly sell the house.
I mean, it'd be great if there was one person who was like, I wasn't convinced, but then I saw that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, the guy's a superhero. Doesn't know how to use a microphone, but he's a superhero.
Yeah. You can't help but think that he did that for his kids. You know, you wouldn't believe what I did today.
I think that is the perfect antidote. The Superman is the perfect antidote to the Lux Listings real estate agent from Bondi. I think there's a bit of self-deprecation. These are small towns, so it's like if 600 people watch the video and it's 559 more than before, that's great. I think it's not about huge viewership, and I think humanising yourself as a real estate agent is actually quite nice. I like the terrible Superman, and I want to see what he's selling.
I don't think there's any value in the brand of a real estate agent. It holds no currency with a buyer. Maybe with the seller, it holds currency, but buyers don't care who the agent is. They don't go on realestate.com and search by agent, because you can't. You search by location, you search by your budget. You don't go to the LJ Hooker website and go, I'm only buying a house from here. You go to the two dominating players. So it's an interesting enigma of all the industries that real estate agents, I don't think they have much currency when it comes to branding to the buyer.
Yeah, I won't go to the LJ Hooker website because the ABC won't let me type in hooker to my web search.
Yeah.
Look, I think I disagree, because if we think about capital cities, yes, if you're thinking about highly congested areas, agents aren't going to be that useful to you. But as soon as you step out of your big capital cities and get into smaller communities, I think that there are relationships that you can build as a buyer as well as being a seller, where your agent is important. You might hold out, you might have someone who's looking out for you in the same way the buyer's agents on Lux Listings are looking out for their clients. I think there's informal ways that those agents can, you know, bear some weight.
There's one brand that pitches exclusively to over 50s. But enough about the ABC. Lifestyle resorts are trying to convince you to downsize.
Bingo. Donna, look! I just put that old treadmill out in the street and it's gone.
Goodbye, clutter. Hello, lifestyle communities.
It's like what Murray Kondo says.
Marie, love.
No, Murray from Murrelbach. He says, to downsize, one must ditch the things that are old, dusty, and bloody well useless.
Oh, well, maybe I should put you out on the street.
Downsize to a bigger life with lifestyle communities.
That guy looks familiar. What does Murray Kondo say about having 3 different families? That does not spark joy. Russell, will this convince homeowners to flee the empty nest?
Oh, probably not. I think what I think is interesting is the target audience. So let's say the target audience is baby boomers. So pretty much everyone over 60 now, over 57, 58. The opportunity to build a brand around that cohort is just massive. When you think about the fact that they own 50% of the country's wealth, 25% of the population, 50% of the country's wealth is just based on boomers. But the most important thing to remember about boomers is that they were responsible for the first social revolution. We're going through a social revolution now. There was one in the 60s into the early 70s. And it would not be unusual for them to have 3 families. You know, they turned society upside down. So if you compare how conservative 1955 Australia was compared to, say, 1975 Australia, they are responsible for turning our country upside down. In fact, around the world, Western world, that's what happened. So why wouldn't you tap into that sense when building a brand for people that are now entering into retirement. So that, to me, is the opportunity. Someone's got to do it.
So this is kind of some old people with lots of old stuff having dinner way too early, like it's still bright. And they really should have shown the contrast of that kind of beigeness and shown the amazingness of these lifestyle communities and literally shown it, because there's definitely a hurdle for someone, and this is for over 50s. I mean, that's pretty much everyone on this panel, so I think they've got to up the age a little bit. But there's definitely a hurdle. Come on, it's true. No, it's true.
The rest of us.
On average.
I mean, on average?
You're not included, Leon.
No,
You're not included.
Apparently just
Thank God. I was like,
yeah, but the rest of you know your age. You know your age. But they don't address that. So there's a big hurdle of people thinking that it's like retirement villages where you go to die. And this was an opportunity to actually say, no, we're shifting the age forward because they're these lifestyle resorts. One of them uses the tagline, a champagne life on a beer budget. And I was like, wow, they're just not saying what needs to be said to a sort of 55-year-old person.
No, it looked more like a Metamucil life on a beer budget.
I wonder if those ads are targeted at my friends and I, not at the people that should be living in those communities, because I think the way that was set, the humour in it, the Marie Kondo, very kind of millennial Netflix humour, and those houses. Like, if your grandparents' house or your parents' house didn't look like that, someone did, or you saw it on TV, it just felt like such a familiar scene. The plastic on the tablecloth, my nonna did that. We couldn't touch any of the furniture. So I wonder if that's what is happening here. I felt like, and my parents are going to kill me if they watch this show, but I thought maybe I should send my parents to one of these. And that's the first time I've ever seen advertising like this and it's done anything to me. So maybe that's
It's not for them, it's for the next generation going, this is how you can get a house.
Exactly, we can free up houses by speeding up that process.
Yes.
I'm on board.
Yeah,
I'm on
that's
board.
good.
Real estate agents will do anything to seal the deal. They spy harder than Bunnings. Bond. Rental bonds. And they keep it real estate.
It's time to move. Developers, what you trying to do? 24/7 agents everywhere. This house is gonna be sold. Look out.
Go away. It's a big week for climate change. In fact, big weeks for climate change are becoming more frequent and more severe. So since we aren't stopping it, we're going to embrace it. We've challenged the next generation of advertisers in the Young Blood program to rebrand natural disasters. Here's the first pitch.
Hi, I'm Eloise.
And I'm Simon.
And we're from Young Bloods WA. Natural disasters like the recent floods have caused so much pain and suffering, and nothing could ever be worth that.
During these dark times, there's one light that always shines through.
Australian. It used to mean something. Compassion.
The reputation of Australian cricket is in tatters.
A fair go.
Steve Smith admitted he'd...
Mateship.
Sorry. No. This is mine. Don't even need it.
What happened to the Aussie spirit?
The 10,000 rescues occurred yesterday, with crews going door to door to save lives throughout all hours of the day. Thanks to their brave efforts, a sense of hope and optimism.
There it is.
Well, you've convinced me. Here's the second pitch.
Hi, we're Ellen Nethme from Youngbloods Queensland. As Queenslanders, we know a thing or two about natural disasters.
Our idea shows how disasters force us to adapt and become resilient.
Enjoy.
Since the beginning of time, humans have faced adversity, but it's made us stronger, faster, smarter. And natural disasters are no different. Floodwaters can reach the same pressure as a 400 kilometers per hour wind. Perfect for resistance training. Nothing motivates a sprint like a 1,000-degree bushfire. Keep running, Christie! It's all hands on deck. But if you can't lend a hand, just lend a roll. Great job, Karen. This climate disaster might be entirely our own fault, but that doesn't mean we can't come out stronger because of it. After all, this is survival of the fittest.
Wow, you've convinced me. But let's see what our panel think. Russell, which did you prefer, mate?
The first one is actually really well written, but I really am going to go for the second one because we're in a time where we're very worthy at the moment. We take things very seriously. Good on them for having some fun. Number 2, I think that's the Queenslanders.
Liana?
I agree. I'm going for number 2. I thought it was an F45 ad right up until...
Lauren?
Oh, it was a tough brief, but I'm going to go number 1.
Oh, now, Todd, you have the opportunity to make it a tie or break the tie. Which one?
The second one was ridiculously fun, but the first one I had no idea where they were going until they said, there it is, and that did bring a smile onto my face, so I'm going with the first one.
Which means it is a tie. Congratulations, West Australia and Queensland. We will send these trophies to you unless disaster strikes. The most expensive tourism campaign on Earth right now costs nearly $300 billion. To put that in context, that's nearly 300 billion 7-Eleven coffees. Here it is.
Gross will go for it and score!
Well, you've convinced me. I'm going for this team. They're going to get slaughtered. This year, the FIFA World Cup is coming to Qatar, but the host nation has been accused of using the event to distract from alleged human rights abuses. This PR tactic was previously tried by the last World Cup hosts, Russia. Must have worked. Everyone loves them. Todd, will the Cup get the world on side?
When it comes to sports, big sporting events, it's either used for nation building or for nation branding. In this case, it's for nation branding or kind of reputational laundering. And the issues are around human rights abuses. I mean, they're still imprisoning same-sex couples there. So sport does... Will it work? Unfortunately, yes. And arguably, it already has. Because if you look at the research now, it's showing the majority of associations with Qatar is sport, not the abuses. And it's not the first time that sport has been used in this way as a way of sports washing. I mean, you know, at one stage Hitler hosted the Olympics, Mussolini hosted the second FIFA, so it's been used a lot. Should it be? No. Is it effective for them? Yes. For some reason, sport sort of sedates our morals and is a very effective Band-Aid for many things.
I just love country strategy. So South Korea, they've done it brilliantly over the last 10 years. New Zealand, they're, of course, you know, the poster child of doing a brilliant job with their country branding. And the very idea that you bring in consultants and say, OK, what we want to do is we want to ensure that we are a first world country. I'm talking about Qatar. We consider ourselves first world. Of course, you know, an unbelievably wealthy country. I think, in fact, the wealthiest country per capita in the world. So we want to be seen to be that, and we want to have a seat at the top table. And when money is no issue, you know, there literally is no bottom to the money well, they can do whatever they want, and they have
Apart from pay people properly to build their stadiums.
Indeed. No, I know, I understand that, but it's a well-trodden path that just gets the world thinking about you differently. And that's what they want. But actually getting the whole world engaged there, does that change? You know, is there greater liberalisation? Is there a greater understanding around, you know, rights of workers? That's what you would hope comes out of it.
But it's the question of, are you willing to put your money into that country. So are you happy to give Qatar, the government, and businesses in that country your money? In Australia, a bit more than 50% of people say they would spend more if those brands align with their personal life choices. And that's around things like sexuality and religion, as well as animal cruelty and human rights and that sort of thing. And that actually goes to over 70% when you get to Gen Y. So the younger you are, the more likely you are to say, no, I'm not spending my money with that brand. And we're actually behind the rest of the world in those statistics. But there is so much money at play here, and you do feel a helplessness going, well, what's me not spending going to create? But actually we are seeing that this year especially, that people power does actually have power and money does talk, and sentiment has value. So even if you don't have the money, you're not withholding money, negative sentiment around the World Cup and around Qatar is going to make FIFA look at it and go, what do we want to actually stand for? Does this fit within our brand? And they're going to find pretty quickly that if that's all people are talking about is, you know, human rights violations, then absolutely the sentiment's going to be terrible.
It fits within the FIFA brand. I think what people are hoping for is the Streisand effect. I think they're hoping that if Qatar is being seen as hiding things, it will pull them more into the light. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this blows over very quickly. I think everyone makes a lot of money, and I think they benefit from the branding.
Yeah, I believe if you're a Barbra Streisand fan, they actually lock you up. So... To coincide with the Cup, Qatar has released its largest ever international tourism campaign, now playing on Aussie screens.
Let's turn it up a notch till it don't get no better. And I ain't gonna stop, better not, cause I'm just trying to catch my breath. Cause if it's sunlight, never fade away, I'll be shining, still shining, shining. If it's bright, it's alright.
I'm just impressed they managed to get the Bunnings mascot. Lauren, can this turn Qatar from a stopover into a destination?
Oh, look, I was really surprised by the childish nature of this. It felt a bit like it was a theme park, then it felt like they had mascots. It starts off by having a young white woman travelling in the Middle East by herself. So that's not abnormal. I mean, I have done it, but it's not common and it's not the target market you're talking to. Then when you move through the ad, any faces are blurred. So you can't see anyone's face in there once you leave the airport. And then on top of that, there's no people anywhere. There's no cars, there's no one's walking on footpaths. It's like they dehumanised Qatar. And when the biggest search on Qatar is Qatar safe? By taking the humans out of it, it was a terrible idea, and it's not going to shift the barriers to travel if people feel safety is their #1 question about that destination.
I think it's weirdly grouse, this ad.
Oh,
I don't know why I like it so much, but I really...
Please try to explain. Why is it that you like
the soundtrack?
That's fair.
The edit is... It's a really clean edit. The animation over live footage, that's actually hard to do, and the spinning animation that occurs. So I've just, you know, there's no expense spared in order to create this it's a piece of entertainment that, yeah, it is more theme park than tourist destination, but again, why not in terms of theme park? Because there'll be plenty of people who just want to go to Qatar and enjoy themselves, especially around World Cup time. It does not do Qatar as a tourist destination any harm. You know, it's a building block in part of their, I imagine, their corporate strategy for brand Qatar.
The Qatar Cup has a new posh face. David Beckham, who agreed to brand it like Beckham for the low cost of $277 million. And may I say, I've always loved Qatar. Come on, no one allegedly violates human rights better. So, what does Qatar get for its money?
The World Cup in Qatar 2022 is such an exciting moment. I'll be there.
I won't. I'll be there. Money well spent. And Beckham won't just shill anything. Unless it's shoes, watches, whiskey, undies, razors, soft drink, texters, gyms, supermarkets, cars and yachts. Oh, and he's also a UNICEF ambassador, but those lousy kids don't pay as well. Liana, does this add to Qatar's credibility or blemish Beckham's?
I think it probably does both. Like, that is such a beautifully cringe execution, from him standing alone in a room watching a video to the, you know, silhouette of the football to the promise that he will be there. I think Beckham intersects mega fame, endorsements. He hangs out at Buckingham Palace. He's got a bit of credibility going on despite his everywhere-ness. So I think it works both ways. There's people that'll immediately discount it because he's him. And then there's people that are semi-interested in football and think, you know, it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. I think he's got the real earned ability. He's so PRable. As far as football goes, he is the guy to be selling the World Cup, and he's very handsome, which also helps in getting his photo in the papers.
And they've managed to lower his voice as well. Yeah. Like, now he's all like, I'll be there, and he used to be like, Pepsi.
Pepsi.
I mean, he is an interesting brand, and his people have come out saying, hey, this is not so much about selling guitar, it's about selling football, which, of course, David Beckham has a right to do. But you just think how fast money overrides values, because I wonder if you spoke to David face-to-face and said, hey, you know, they're imprisoning same-sex couples. What do you think about that? And is his response going to be 277 million?
Yeah, that's what I actually think, because that's a huge amount of money. Like, there's no denying that, but there's key factors.
It's 277 million 7-Eleven coffees.
It is. That's very yum.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. But there's key factors to get you to such a huge number. So it's not abnormal in an ambassador contract to need exclusivity. So he's had to say he'll probably now not be able to do anything to do with travel, tourism or airlines, that sort of thing. Then there's also danger money, which is where his people would be going, what's the number we put against this in case Qatar do something they probably shouldn't and there's any damage to Beckham. Then they're looking at opportunity costs, because I can guarantee you there's brands that will have nothing to do with him from now on, and some of them that do now will definitely be dropping him. But then there's the blocking strategy, which that's probably where the biggest amount of money sits, because they blocked him for a decade. So he's under their control for a decade. There's 2 more World Cups in that decade. So it's like they're blocking him from being a footballer from now on. And then he's going to be late 50s by the time this contract ends. So they've kind of bought Beckham for the rest of his life.
He can't even count that money in that time period.
Yeah, but you can see how they've pieced all those things together to go, that is 277 million. They've added value to things that are really normally can't be quantified, and they put numbers to give a really big package. Whoa, I shouldn't have said that.
Just by what we can see in that ad, which is terrible ad, as you mentioned. I mean, it's a green screen. There's not even in an ad, really.
He's at home.
So clearly they spend all the money on the ambassadorship, none of the money on the execution.
I mean, the irony of them not spending money on executions.
Wow. Oh, God.
You know what? I'm not scared of you, Qatar.
Yeah.
Come after me. You've done bad shit, and I know about it, and I'm calling it out, and you can come after me. Adam Hills is my name, and you come and find me, Qatar. I am not scared of you. That is all we have time for tonight. Please thank our panel, Russell Howcroft, Liana Rossi, Lauren Zonfrillo, and Todd Sampson. We'll leave you with our own viral pitch for a hot piece of real estate that we're going to sell before anyone else can. The ABC. We'll see you next week.
One of Australia's most trusted brands, this 90-year-old heritage gem has been on the market for years. It's your ABC. It comes with charming, if mismatched, double-glazed windows that overlook an expansive garden, complete with live-in gnome. There's a place for the kids to play, while the rest of the place operates as one big granny flat. And best of all, no neighbours. A renovator's delight. The insides have already been gutted. Get in quick, this place really won't last.